Hi, everybody, and welcome to the next one in our series of special hours here on Office Hours, where we talk to industry luminaries about what they're doing and how learning from them can help us get our stuff done better, faster, and more effectively. Many of you know Jeff Keithley. He calls himself the chief problem solver for Pizzazz Media, a production organization based near Houston, Texas, where he runs a crew that does live streaming both in the cloud and on-prem. I think the first time I ran into Jeff in person, he was switching a global webcast from the back seat of a Tesla, though I believe it's more common to find him in the back of a traditional broadcast truck type arrangement, monitoring live sports coverage and more. We have a lot of topics for our questions tonight, and Jeff has been doing this for such a long time that you will have a great resource for understanding things about live streaming. He's done a lot with AWS and other cloud production services, and he's been doing this for a long time. He has deep expertise in taking live events and making sure everything gets done correctly. In that spirit, I get to say hi to my friend, Jeff Keithley. Good evening, Jeff.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you. It's good to be here. I was agreeing with Cindy. We were talking a little bit earlier. It's like, feels weird at the nighttime, but I kind of like it. This is kind of when I get my second wind. And a lot of times this is whenever I get going.
Absolutely.
And work till the morning light if I can, and many times too. Yeah.
Well, one thing about the whole production arts, you always have to work incredibly amounts of time, particularly getting ready for something like a live stream. And we do not run 8 to 5 lives in this business at all. Tell me a little bit about how you got started in this kind of endeavor. Where'd you catch the live bug?
Believe it or not, 2025 that it is now is my 40th year.
Wow.
In May, it'll be 40 years that I've been in this business one way or another.
Not much has changed in 40 years in this business, has it?
Not at all. When you start doing the math like that, I was like, it feels really bad. It makes me feel a lot older than I feel. But yeah, 40 years. Everything from DJing in the very first, and that's where I got my start, was actually in the DJing world. And as soon as you had speakers and microphones, you got asked, "Oh, hey, can you provide PA services? Can you do lighting?" We added lighting to the kits. It's like, "Oh, can you do lighting for the stage?" And I just I guess I kind of caught the tech bug out of that, is the most part of it. And then once we got things moving towards, I guess it was 5 or 6 years, 7 years into it. That's when computers started coming around. And I can say without a doubt, I was one of the first computer-based DJs in the country.
Nice.
We were like 5 of us on a hand, we kind of count that away.
Digitized music instead of LPs, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, we had already done all that. I've still got hundreds, if not thousands, of albums, and then we moved to even cassettes. A little bit that, but mini disc, if you remember those.
Oh God, yes.
Lots of CDs, lots and lots of CDs, and then from then we were burning our own CDs and doing our own mixes and stuff like that to kind of help things move around. So it was just kind of a natural thing, and I've always loved technology and loved tools like computers. And so I remember, vividly, it was like going to Best Buy and buying the biggest hard drive they had at the time, which was a 1 gigabyte hard drive. Yeah.
I remember my first, an 11 megabyte Corvus. Megabyte. 11 megabyte, and it was the size of a boat anchor. It was huge. It looked like an encyclopedia small set.
And that's how I kind of started there, and then it just kept. It's just you never have enough space, and so I was editing audio with what was Cool Edit. That was the bomb. I remember trying one of the others, but Cool Edit was the software that just changed my world, in that I could edit audio, and I was really fast at it. I didn't have to cut on because I was doing tape or reel-to-reels before, and some special cassettes that we could actually do cuts on a beat or whatever. But Cool Edit was something I could visualize, and I just got really good at cutting audio and made a lot. I honestly made a lot of money just cutting audio, dance studios, gyms, cheerleading, you name it. I just had a really good business, and I had a good flow. So as I moved into video in the mid 90s somewhere, and I basically got irritated with freelancers that I was hiring, and finally said, look, I'm just going to buy the stuff and do it myself. I can't find anybody I could count on. They couldn't deliver. So we're going to start doing this myself. It can't be that hard. Oh, good Lord. Boy, dude, that...
Well, it's all about putting on the show, and that gets you to this digital era where suddenly all the rules change. And now everything's bits, everything's computers, everything is where we're struggling, not struggling necessarily, but what we're trying to get our brains around now, which is the constant flow through the cloud and through literally remote everything. We're watching everything that we used to do on our desktop just get sent up into a digital space. That must have been a heavy transition for you.
Well, it really was one of those things that I just saw it as opportunities that, presented to make a change and maybe do things a different way. Whenever our first remote, I think it was probably about 12 years ago now, 12, 13, somewhere around that. We were doing sports at the time, and we were hiring freelancers, and we were going out on events. We were doing, at that time, we started a pro tennis contract. We were hiring freelancers for cameras, hiring freelancers for graphics, and that was local. So that's kind of how the model worked. We hired a local. He had to bail on us for whatever reason. Freelancers do what freelancers do. So he bailed on us, and we were stuck without a graphics operator. Well, at that time, we didn't have graphics that were automated with the scoring and everything. So we were manually typing it in. It was too much for a TD to do or a producer to do at the same time and call the show, switch the show, do everything. So I called back to my cousin was working for me at the time, a family business. All right. So my cousin was working at the time, and he was working in the warehouse. And I'm from Beaumont, Texas. So we're outside of Houston. It gets warm at times. So
I've noticed that about Texas.
This is July. And so I called him and said, hey, I need help. Can you jump on a computer inside the office and get on Skype? I'm going to feed you the audio, and I need you to team viewer into this machine that we have here and help chase these graphics so that we can, update the graphics and we don't have to do it. And we're just running behind. We're a short staff. He goes, yeah, all right, let me see. I don't know anything about it. He goes, well, all you listen for the number, punch it in. And that was the simple part of it, right? So he started doing that, and I was like, we did the whole day, and we made it through that day. I called the guy that
remote production. Wow.
Yeah. And so I called the guy that was supposed to be freelance and was going to show up the next day because he got free, and I was like, don't worry about it, we got it. So that's where we started. And so I called back. His name's Joey, because I said, Joey, do you have any problem doing it? He goes, man, anything to get out of that warehouse you have me in. I'm absolutely for it. So the next day he stayed home, logged in from his lazy boy, because he's lazy, got a lazy boy.
Of course.
I'm like, is everything set up? You all good? It's like, man, I'm sitting right here. I got my iced tea in my right hand. I got the mouse in he's left-handed. I got my left-handed. I got my mouse, and I'm all good. Let's go.
Switching from a bar to lounger. What could be nicer? But it clicked in your brain that things were changing.
Like, we don't have to be on site anymore.
Yeah,
that's the whole thing. What is the reason why half the time we're in a big truck?
Yeah,
you wouldn't see you can't see from one end of the truck to the other end.
Right.
And if you didn't know there was somebody down there, you wouldn't even know they were there.
Well, you're probably on comms with them, and you never see them in the flesh anyway.
Exactly. We're on comms. The only time you saw him was maybe going to the truck in the morning, and that was it. It's like, hey, Tom. Hey, Joe. Hey. All right. And that was it. And then the rest of the time you're talking on comms. And so that's kind of how I equated it to. And that's what we started moving our business into. And so we really focused as we were doing this tennis thing. And I did that for 12 years. It was a really good contract, and it had a lot of life. It was feeding the gaming side of the world. So it was, we don't have it here as much, but it's the betting people. So people overseas bet on tennis all the time.
That is interesting.
Okay. Huge. It's the number 2 betted upon sport in the world. Number one being soccer. football,
Yeah.
football.
Football.
So whenever we started doing that, that's where it's like, well, how can we be more effective? Why, do less travel? What can we do? And graphics was the first thing. Pretty close after that was probably replay, that we were automating that, and it was using a lot of the same tools, TeamViewer or other different screen share type softwares. And then we moved from there into more of a full on, let's do this as a REMI, as they called them at the time. Now, ours was different. It's like we were a different type of REMI because we were controlling the gear that's inside the truck, because we didn't have a whole lot of internet at a lot of these places, or city parks, or small clubs, or whatever. And so because of that, we didn't have a whole lot of internet. We could talk to the truck and send control messages fairly timely, but we couldn't bring all that video back. And then also about 8 years ago, the client that we were working for was like, hey, we're going to do everything in 4K now. So that anticipated, they were like, oh, we're going to do it in 4K. Well, the stream ended going out like at 360p. It was a waste.
Produce at 4K and stream at 360. Not a problem.
These are the decisions that the stakeholders make for you. Yeah. So we satisfied the contract. We put in a 4K workflow and everything like that. But the idea was that we don't have to pull all those signals back. We're just controlling the machines and all the signals that are on site. So around that same time, we started working with Mark Roberts Motion Control, and we got our guys off of the court that were
for camera work. You were controlling remote head cameras as opposed to people who were standing behind a camera.
Yeah, exactly. So we were moving to robotic cameras. Now, these are robots. They're robotics, not PTZs. We did use some PTZs, but these are robotics, are like that's the top of the line, and you're moving up a class, right? So we started doing that, and it's all IP based. And so by the first month into it, I was like, whoa, if we can get off the court and go work in we were using tour buses at the time, or the trailers that are air conditioned, everything's like, why can't we do that a little bit further? And so we started playing around with it. And before too long, we perfected the methodology of being able to move our camera operators to wherever we had internet. And that was a game changer.
Absolutely.
That was 100% a game changer.
Does that lead us to Nimbus?
Almost.
Okay. So what's the interim step? Where did you go?
Right about the time we were doing that, we were already working in the cloud. I've been in the cloud for 10 years, well before everybody kind of rushed to it around 19, and then of course 20. It really exploded at that point, and that's where we exploded in our cloud side too. Nimbus came about. Is cloud control was always a challenge, but it's not really just about that. It's more about the remote control and facilitating that. So that's where it came about. So anytime I had a remote operator on board, we said, okay, you need this software for remote control. You need this tunneler or VPN to be able to get into our systems. You need this for comms. I have a Mac. All right, well, let me start all over again. All right, then you need this software. You need this software. You need this software. All right, and so anybody that was trying to do freelance and work for us as a remote control, as a remote operator, we had to go through this onboarding process every single time. Sometimes, we'd use people that we'd already used. And so it was a little faster, but it was always you need this. That IP didn't work. Okay, well, let me try this IP. And it was a lot of hand holding and a lot of just extra admin that at some points you were like, is it really worth it at that point? So
it sounds like the complexity just keeps growing and growing and growing, and you need to make it simpler.
That was the goal. That was where Nimbus really started germing in my head, and I literally have been working this angle for probably 10 years, at least 6 or 8. Yeah. So
assume I know nothing about it. Explain a little bit that original idea, why you thought this service was important.
Well, for us, Nimbus is a control platform. So it's a software as a service in some ways, but it's really more of a platform as a service because we are able to do more than just software with this. So our platform is we can actually give people access to our cloud services. So we could do AWS, we could do Oracle, we could do cloud, Google Cloud, or our own private clouds that we actually are administering from here at the offices that we have our own data center built up. So that is where we kind of differ from a lot of the other options that are out there. We're not just about AWS. We're great. They're great partners. We use them a lot, but that's not really all we're about. We're about making it easier to onboard and operate. And that's the goal behind it.
Well, that makes perfect sense because cloud is a bit complex. It's not simple for an end user. You have to have pretty deep background knowledge. I mean, all the tunneling and all the connecting this to that has to go through a pretty complex system. So is your goal there to make it easier for people?
Yeah, that's the whole goal. It's make it easier, but to do it in a very secure way. That security is like that's the top of our list. And security, because we want to make sure that if we have a Fortune 100 over here and a Fortune 500 over here, they never see each other. They never see each other's resources. They're completely isolated. They're siloed. And if it's a small little 4-person production crew working out of the back of a Tesla, whatever, then I hear people do that. But if it's a small little crew working out of the, whatever, they're treated the same. They get the same tools, but they're completely siloed from everybody else. So, at the same time, as the more you grow, you want to onboard more operators. You want to do more with more people. You can grow with the system and that also. So, I mean, that kind of transitions into the simple part, right? Of where do we start? So, I guess maybe we should go over and I'll throw a screen share up and then we'll kind of start from there.
Walk us through it. Great.
All right. So this is the very basics of it right now. As you can see, this is the dashboard. This is where you would log in and you would land at this page. Once you're landed at the page, that's where it really gets simple because you're going to only see the projects that you are. I'm going to go back to another user here that I have. This user, as you can see, is not... and they're logged in at the top. I just have one little project on this specific one. And here we go. And so there's the one project right there. They choose that. Then underneath it, they get project links. So the links can be expanded out. And then they get the user panels. So we have, kind of think of it as at the top level, we have organizations. Then we have projects. Underneath the projects are the users with their assets and what they can be assigned. So everybody doesn't get the same thing. You're not looking at it, and this is how it all germed. Is you're not looking at a Google sheet, and I'm not sharing a Google sheet or whatever, or PDF or whatever, with 50 different IP addresses on it, 50 different passwords.
Sure, and 50 different names of the people. You've got a management lever, I'm sure, and then as you go down the org chart, people only need access to certain things as opposed to being able to see the entire universe.
Yes. Yeah, and I had a client that was doing that. He was sharing out that Google sheet, and I'm like, oh no, man, you just gave everybody the keys to your kingdom. I mean, he literally had people going into their AWS console, and that they had access to the console. I'm like, no, this is not good, guys, because I mean, you don't ever expect a bad actor, right? But anybody at any point in time could be. And so the zero trust came about of that point is like, I don't want anybody else to affect somebody else. So this is where we kind of went back to. So whenever we are in this world, that's all they see. That's it. Now I'm going to go over to my user. And my user, I'm a super user in it, so a super admin, right? The difference in
I'm shocked.
is I get access to as many different projects as I assign. So there's 2 different projects in my organization. And to help you a little bit in the visualization part of it, we added this in just recently. And this is kind of our version 2 of it. As you can see, these are the organizations here. This is the admin side. So this is where I can build in and add a new organization to it. Just as simple as, create your organization. They have a plan that's assigned to them. These are the different plans that we have in our SaaS. And then underneath that, you have the projects. Well, you have different projects. You can look over here on the right side where the members are that are associated. So it's a very easy thing to see. But if you wanted to create a new project, we'll just call this office hours because, we like this, guys. And I'll just say, let's start tomorrow and maybe at 8 a.m. And so tomorrow at 8 a.m., or no, actually, it's supposed to be 6 a.m., isn't it? Okay. And so then
it's way too late to start. We'll never get done in time for the show.
It depends on where you're going from. And then let's say, it's going to end somewhere in May 1st of 2025. There it is. So by just typing simple things in there, and then I just save it out, and then I can assign in, add users, and all the different user levels that we have. I can add those in there, and they get different choices that are assigned to them. So they could be a viewer, which is kind of the lowest on the totem pole. They just get to view things. Editor, they could do certain things. Admin, of course, is the next step up, where you can get a little higher, and then owner is where we start with the project. But that's a project right there. And so think of it as like whenever you go into a show, who's my client? Okay, if you're freelancing, so think of it in the freelance world. It's like, I came in, I'm working for this person. What do I do for them? What am I doing for them? I'm going to be on this project. This project may be a live sporting event, or it might be a corporate event. It doesn't matter. Whatever that project is. And then what is my job in there? Well, I'm going to be a V1. V1 in corporate, well, I'm playing back videos. V1 in sports, I'm shading. So I'm shading or coloring cameras. Or I might be a TD or a director or a producer, whatever those. Each one of those roles can be assigned different things. So that's where we came up with the user panel interface. So we call it the UPI for short. Everything's got to have an abbreviation.
An acronym, yes.
Yeah. Sorry. So the UPI is where we go down past the projects. We have links. All these are the different links that we can have for the project that apply to the project. So everything that you would possibly need, you can add a link in there and just have a quick and easy button to get to it. And then the user panels, as I said, each one of those are assigned to whatever the role is. Now, I could see them all, but as that other user I showed you, they could only see 2 panels. And so I could see them all. But in my dashboard, as I started out, like I said, I'll go ahead and close the backside. There we go. So now I go down, I'm saying, okay, well, here's my demo. And there is all the pieces that I need to do my show. That's the whole idea.
The feeling I'm getting is that this is as good a tool for an organization as it is for a producer who works for multiple organizations. Is that the kind of thought behind this?
Bingo.
Okay,
exactly.
So whether you're working for one major client, one top line set of management, or you are a true freelancer and that you get hired into multiple groups, you can establish this workflow and add as many different client subgroups as you need, and you'll have access to all the tools you know how to use for all of them.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. So it's gonna appeal to both the user. It's going to appeal to the user. It's going to appeal to the administrator, and it's going to appeal to the companies. So that's how we're kind of. It really goes a lot of different directions. If we can look back at the dashboard a little closer, you'll see on the project links, we have the big go button, the big red go button, right? And so that starts our AWS infrastructure in the backside. Now, as an admin, I actually get to see the machines. Now, not everybody would be able to do that, but as you can see here, here's the groups of our machines that we have running in our AWS right now. And starting at the top, this is the whole group, and then it goes down to individual machines underneath that. I have 2 machines running currently right now because I'm doing most of this on my on-prem servers. But this is basically a visibility feature for the admin guy to be able to see everything that's going on. There's all the IP addresses, all the assignments that I would normally see in a typical, I would call it a typical cloud infrastructure that's looking at AWS. The difference is I could simplify this down now. We take the elements out, we abstract them out. We can simplify it so that the average user doesn't have to be inundated and just overwhelmed by the whole big AWS console, it is overwhelming. So we try to just like give them just the pieces they need to see and know. A viewer can see that it's turned on. A viewer can see that it's not turned on. Well, then if they need to, they can contact their next step up and say, "Hey, supervisor, can you please, turn on these resources, the ESC or whatever." So that's the steps behind it.
And maybe even more important, you can turn them off if you've forgotten about the fact that you've left some instances running and it's chunking away at your bank account.
Believe me, it happens more than you expect. You want to.
I think that's why I knew to ask the question, because I've heard people talking about, oh God, we left that instance running 24 hours.
And it's honestly, it's not as bad with the things that we put into our, especially in AWS, we have a lot of triggers and stuff, and we do it here with office hours and the infrastructure that we're using. This is a cloud. This whole show's being switched in the cloud right now with Vector, and it is absolutely paramount to do those kind of things. And so that's why we have those alarms and those watchdogs and all that in here. We all like to work with different tools, but a lot of the common tools we'll be able to put here. One of the things like just simple is just let's just open up a Google sheet. I'm sorry, I clicked off of that. Let me show you. So this project Google sheet, this is exactly the same Google sheet that you would open up if you had a link. Guess what? I didn't have to go look for a link. It's right there. So
you're concatenating resources that people will need and putting it right there in front of the operator so that they can get to all the data they need in real time.
So in this idea here, I'm splash topping, so it's a different type of remote control. I went and just splash top directly into a local machine that I have right here. After I logged into it, boom, there it is. Then now I'm locally connected to a local machine. And at the same time, if I need to talk to a cloud machine, I'm talking directly in the cloud, and here I am in my cloud machine. So it's really about, like I said, yes, exactly that. It's making it easier for the user to get to the devices and to the machines that they need without having to go through and look in a Google Sheet, copy paste, to have an app installed, those kind of things. These are open in browser windows because the browser is, well, it's common. It's practically on every device. I can work this off my phone, no problem. I can work this off my iPad, which look right here. There it is. So just as fast as you can see my preview window right here, just popping through. There it is by myself. There's my shot. So
you're basically switching from your iPad into the cloud instances that you've got running there.
Yeah, I'm using the iPad to do a lot of things. So we're one of our partners. We have several partners that we're partnered up with in our project besides just the cloud people. We are partnered up with Sienna. Processing Engine is one of our biggest things behind the scenes that we are able to leverage. We've been using it for a long time. We've sold quite a few of them, and this is just another one of our tools that we use. Central Control, Jody Max's Central Control is a very big part of it. That's what we're building interfaces with and use it for some of our previews. And then we also are partnered up with Telos. Telos has been around forever in the radio world, but they have a amazing intercom system called VIP Intercom, and it's a WebRTC based intercom, very fast, very clean, very simple to use. And we're also partnered up with VCOM, which is another comms solution over cloud. So those are some of our major partners right now. Llama Mix is also another one that is working with us, and we're steadily developing in that route because they're making it so we can tie in pieces of their mix platform. Right now, we just embed the whole thing, we can control it and all, but we're making it to where we can actually just pull out pieces and give, just like we call it the slider of me, so we can give that to a director. And if they want more audio or more or less audio, it's their mix. They can do whatever they want.
Fascinating.
To make it simpler. Again, so you don't have to call the EIC and go, hey, I need this, and then my comms and stuff. Well, we could give them 4 or 5 different knobs, and then they could do it all right there on their shot. So that's kind of where we're at now, and this is where we're seeing the real power behind all this. You'll notice. This is really cool because I am actually, I'll explain this. I'm into this desktop that we have here. This whole desktop has a preview and a program window. And so you can see it changing around. So now I'll just do 2 videos because that's a little easier. So this is my program window on the top right. This is my preview window on the left. I have this interface that anybody that's logged into the system can pop around, and this is controlling my TriCaster TC2, effectively a hardware version of the Vector, sitting over here. So this whole interface is just a web browser, yes, and I could do as much in a program as much as I want to do as far as I go to even include audio. This is all coming to be by central control. So central control is kind of our extra control layer that's in this. So it's not just about giving people the interfaces like this, but it's also about tying the interface with the controls. And that's kind of the where I see the biggest power. So from our friends over at SPX, this is one of our SPX servers that we have running. I can run graphics in and out off of this interface. And you notice this is, I logged in, this is the graphics interface that I'm showing there. So this is the graphics interface that we're showing. And this is just another user panel, and they have full control, just like if they were browsing with a browser into this. This is a window within it. As you can see on the right side over here, we even have another module that's plugged into it that is just conversations on Discord. So we have Discord in there. We have a program window so you can see the program out. Even over here, I don't have it on this specific one, but over here on the technical director, I've got the ability to go.
We got video feedback switchers. That sounds exciting.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my head around what's going to be the easiest way to show that in myself. All right, well, it's just going to have to go. So it's replicating because it's seeing itself in the program video that we're using here. But at the very bottom of this is a full panel of the Telos comms. So we have the ability to have comms on there. On the right side, we have a switcher that's an interface coming off of the processing engine, audio sliders also to be able to adjust. All that, as you can see, is just as real time as can be. And that's the real thing that we're just trying to bridge, is that get past the technology side and make it easier for people to embrace the technology and move ahead without it being technology. And I hope that makes sense. Does that make sense?
It does. You bring up people. Let's talk about that for just a little bit. And in this respect, Jeff, who are the people who are going to be running these systems? And if you had, let's say, a youngster coming up, you thought this is a really sharp young man or young lady, and you think they could really do well in this industry, what would you have them study, look at, play with in order to kind of build the kind of skills that the next generation of operators are going to need? Because we haven't had tools like this before. What are you looking for?
It 100% is, it's going to be more so of, they don't really need to know tech. That's the whole thing. It's creatives. It's people that are the perfect client for this is people that are heavy users, yes, but at the same time, it's a novice user. So it is the person that's, just joined the club, whatever, that wants to shoot football on Friday nights. This could be a method of them jumping on at the simplest level. They see the tools that we're using. A lot of this is all hardware in our trucks. Mm-hmm. We're still using software in our trucks too, but a lot of it's just hardware. So they don't have to, they don't think like that. Nobody thinks like that anymore. Okay, there are people that think like that.
Well, but a lot of kids have grown up gaming and things like that, and they're used to a virtual interface to affect things to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So if they grew up with a joystick in their hand, or Game Boy or not Game Boy, but a gaming joystick controller, those are the people I want. These are the people I hire. And there's no pushback from them. I'm like, here's a touchscreen, or here's a tablet. They're like, oh yeah, that's not special.
I was on that this morning when I was setting up my homework.
Right.
Totally.
But what can you do with it, right? And so now that we can kind of get into integrating a lot of those pieces that we normally would have hardware in place, now we can get into it and actually make it easier for people to start using real tools. One of the other ones that besides the Discord and integration, that was always one of those things I was pushing for, because I get tired. Speaking of tools, phones going off. I've been having to do this. Oh, they sent me a link. Great. Now I've got to figure out how to get that link to my computer.
Sure.
Open the link. Do I have Discord on my computer? But maybe not. WhatsApp. That's a classic one. It doesn't have really an app on the computer that you can, though you can share with one, I think. But we're trying to integrate those kind of things into the platform to, again, make it easier, because maybe the client comes in and says at the last minute, hey, I have this file, here it is. And
here's a thumb drive.
Exactly.
What the hell am I going to do with this?
You can't do that necessarily in the cloud as easy, but there are ways around it. But it's like, most of the time, send me a Dropbox link. That's where we get a lot of or a Google Drive link. Yeah. That's where we get a lot of our content. It was like that. And so that was the idea of the chat and conversations. Like, I can see the chat here. If I'm staring at my phone trying to type it, and of course I type pretty fast, but not as fast as some, but I'm sitting there trying to concentrate, and I'm looking at my phone the whole time going, da, 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 da. I'm missing cues. I'm missing time on the production. So if I have it on my interface, as we have here, then I can actually see the run a show that I have going on. This is just an example that I put together through OnTime, which is one of our partners also. So we use OnTime as a run a show for the project, and we can embed other things too. So if you use ShowFlow or other run a shows type software out there, you could use that, even a freaking Google Sheet if you wanted to. I hate Google Sheets as run a shows, but I'll get off my box. But this is what we are using.
It's not that they're not used out there.
I know, yeah, exactly. But just like, give me a real run a show with a timer and all. But these are is just little things like this that just make life easier. If I need just a straight up timer, I have that in it as a module. Now, this is where it really comes in. It's like, besides having the different looks, these are not fixed looks. I can go down and say, I want to have a small timer, but I want to have a large multi-viewer.
So the GUI is adjustable. You can specify what you want.
Of course, I'm going in and out. Now this I can save to the cloud from this point. It saves it into our cloud, but that means the next time that I come back, so if I went back to the graphics person here, for instance, and then I go back to the producer, it's exactly where I left it. So by that, it helps a lot in making sure that everything is exactly the way you want it when you walked away from it. And the next day you come to do work, hey, you're already there. You're halfway ready to go at that point. So that's one of the big things, of the whole idea, is to make sure that it takes less time to get up to speed also. So whenever I walk in the morning, I don't want to, this is what other things, it's pain that makes things, right? Pain makes me move ahead in technology. Pain makes me want to fix technology because it's painful. I don't want to have to open up 12 different windows and put them. I know you do this. You open up this window, you move it over here. I want to open up this window, move it over there. I was like, oh, this one, I'm going to get just right, just so I could just see the little flash at the bottom, right?
At worst, when you shut it down, it's all going away. That's the most annoying thing in the world.
Morning,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly why we built it this way, with the persistence. So now the next time we start up, you just open your session, you go into your login, and your desktop is exactly where you left it.
I'm not doing my job here, though, because we haven't taken a single question. I've been so fascinated just to talk about all this stuff. And I wondered if Cindy has any questions that have been popping up while we've been having this chat. Cindy?
Well, here's one from Jonas Dowdle. What is your favorite feature?
Without a doubt, what I just said. My favorite feature is I can start over where I was the next morning and I'm right back to where I was without having to rebuild a dashboard, rebuild a look or anything like that. That is where my favorites are, because it's just, I could save 10 minutes, say 15 minutes. I could be working on something else instead.
And can you save multiple arrangements for different things? So you can charge, I'm doing this type of work today. Let me bring up preset 13
Absolutely.
and I know what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Very cool.
Yep.
Cindy, anything else?
Yes, here's one from Taylor Sunderhouse in Cincinnati, Ohio. What challenges were you facing that inspired you to create Nimbus?
The biggest was exactly kind of what I alluded to earlier. Really, the biggest challenge was always about onboarding people and having, I guess, a majority of people that are in our world, not say our world, that are doing technology. That's whether you're doing remote production, you're doing cloud productions, and that's where we kind of differentiate ourselves. Is we're doing both. We're not just about cloud. We're not just about remote. We're doing both. But those people that are doing that, they're a different breed. They're not the same right now, right? So my goal behind this is to make it easier for those people that are not super technical, that aren't the Taylor, the Taylors, the Jonases, and the Tuckers, and those and Drox. We're not. There's only a few of us, and there's a lot more people that are still doing production work, but they're not necessarily savvy enough to run a whole cloud infrastructure and start from scratch. But if we can make it easier for them to do it, we can get them more work, and we can be more productive as a group, as an industry. I just feel like that's where we're headed, making it easier for everyone.
I don't know why, but it came into my mind that, there's a lot of different kinds of musicians. There are rock musicians, there are symphony musicians, they're all musicians, but they do have different processes. One just wants to go out and freeform, and the other one wants to go out and follow the script. I mean, it's the composition, and I have to honor that and bring that to life. So, yeah, I can see what you're saying. That it sounds like what you're working hard to do is create an environment where no matter which kind of musician you are, you're going to find tools that help you be efficient, and you'll be able to come back to them, and it'll be set up the way you want the next time without all this stress and concern.
Or the other side of it is not having to look around for all the freaking links. I mean, that was a really frustrating thing to me. It's like, okay, what? So we recently did some work in the fall, and we probably had 5 different spreadsheets at one show. It was so frustrating. I was like, oh, where is that link? And again, they were giving the keys away. And it's not that I don't trust people. I just don't trust people. And so I don't want them to have the keys to turn on everything. And clients should be very protective about that YouTube channel. They really should, and not just freely hand. Oh, here's the keys to my YouTube, and then everybody else in your staff, you have to make sure that they're responsible for it. I've had clients come to me and it's like, I don't want to know your password. No. Here's my password. No. I don't want to know your password.
Please don't give it to me.
Yes, because there's liability involved there.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So that's kind of like you look at it from the top down. It's like I don't want a freelancer that I hired, I don't want them to have the keys to a high-end client knowing that they can go into that YouTube account because they saw it on a spreadsheet. I'm sorry. I feel like those things need to be siloed in any production, in any job.
Well, perfectly reasonable. You're right. There's liability involved in that. And if you've got 40,000 people watching worldwide, that every minute that's running, all the salaries of all those people, that's a lot of money. So if some knucklehead can get in there and mess with the show, that is not good mojo.
Yep.
Questions anymore, Cindy?
Florence Donald in Silver Spring, Maryland is asking, what are some of your most secure organizations you've onboarded so far?
Hey, who's been most concerned about security, and at what level?
I could say that everybody should be. In most of our clients that we are currently engaged with, they are definitely, that was one of the biggest things, was starting out with security. But as far as names, I can't drop those names.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, as soon as real money is involved, and I mentioned, that
NDAs are involved immediately.
NDAs are involved.
Even with no money involved many times.
Well, I'll never forget when Frame.io was starting out. I remember talking to one of the engineers that I knew pretty well, and he said, the last 5 years, mostly what we've been doing is making sure we're secure, because the big players will not even look at you unless you can say that the data you put through our system is going to remain yours and through the system and the person you designate on the other end, but nobody's getting their little mitts in between those two states. So I completely understand that. Next question.
Here's one from Dave Troutman in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Does your truck still have patch bays? Just to remind you how good you have it.
Is everything virtually switched now, or do you have cables?
No, there's still cables, and they're just fiber. So there's less. It's funny. When we built our van, so 2017. So 2017, and at that time I was like, we didn't have time to source a patch panel for the outside, which usually a patch panel, for those that don't know, is usually somewhere around 12 to 19 inches wide, maybe 6 spaces or 7 spaces, 8 spaces high. So somewhere in the 10 inches, 12 inches tall. And you would have a door that you flip up, and then you would have these panels inside with all the connectors in there, all the little bits and bobs that you needed to connect. Those are great because you save time. You don't have to put your stuff through the wall and then go around inside and patch it in. So we put it off. And I have a 2-inch hole. But
you have a port, not a patch bay.
Exactly. And so at that time we did that, and it's the same connector actually as my power connector. It's a 50 amp twist connector, same exact one. So there's two of them that look exactly the same. Nobody knows unless you actually open it and look inside what it is. That was another thing too, is we were trying to make our vans a little bit more undercover. So they're kind of low key. They don't look like production vans necessarily, not like some of the other TV. I have no logos or anything like that on any of our equipment like that. So that little hole, I'll get to my story, is that little hole went from having 6 or 8 cables in it. Every once in a while, really big shows, we might have like 20 cables going in and out of it. But the majority of it was 2 cables, fiber in, fiber out. And that was it. Yeah,
so the density of signal pass-through just changed as fiber optics came in.
It's huge. It's huge. It's like, I got a TAC 12 and a TAC 4. So that means 12 fibers on one, 4 on the other. And the 4 was only connecting to the internet. And we really actually used one fiber out of that. It was the rest for redundancy. But that's kind of how patch cables and patch bays have changed. Now, this is the next thing, right? So the next thing is patching in the cloud, or patching in a large virtualized type of setup is very challenging. You have to visualize it. You have to think in your head, okay, this goes to that, to that, to that. And we're automating a lot of that within Nimbus. So whenever we roll out and we say we want all these machines, well, we want them to be connected to all those over there. So we have scripts in line that are actually building all that infrastructure for us. So it's in AWS at Terraform, but it's the same concept as you're scripting the build out and reconnecting all that stuff. So all that patch bay stuff and all that patch bay work of the brain having to do it, or you having to think, oh, it's this cable going to that hole and vice versa. We're doing that ahead of time. So then we don't have to have as much on-prem time for doing, or either on-prem or in cloud prep time, so that we don't have to worry about those extra engineering hours. It's 1 or 2 people instead of a whole crew of 20 doing all the patching.
You just blew my mind, Jeff. You blew my mind. I had not, until the moment you said that, tried to think about a virtual cross-point latch switching thing, and it's just like, whoa, hello, 3-dimensional chess. That's fascinating.
I would equate it to that many times. It's very much like that.
Whoa. We've got not just width and height. That's easy. Plugs this way, it plugs that way, but now we got plugs
It's so
every
easy
way.
to actually, you can bring that out so much wider in a virtual environment also. So in our cloud environments, it's like, It's NDI, it's digital. I don't have to be. I'm not beholden by. I have a 64 by 64 router. I have a 128 by 128 router. I usually run my router at 512 by 512, and I still sometimes will fill it up and have to make it a bigger one. Yeah. I can do 4096 by 4096 cross points in our virtual router, and I don't ever get that high, but I've done well over 1,000 in some shows in cross points, and so those are things you have to keep track of, and you really have to have a good brain to keep track of that. But also you use the right paperwork, but then you build it, so that it's doing it itself where it makes sense, because a lot of the stuff that we do, especially in sports, very common, very similar. It's not that big a deal to replicate that. It's these one-offs that always get you.
Yeah, well, stadium shows. There's a lot when you got lots and lots and lots and lots of cameras and things like that.
Working
I imagine it
with
gets
a lot
crazy.
of different people or different crews. That's like we did a CrossFit thing, and there were 4 different production crews. I was like, so that was a challenge. Yeah.
Another question, Cindy?
This one's from Florence Donald in Silver Spring, Maryland. Do you have a limit to the number of operators that a client can have running a production from within Nimbus?
Well, there's physically no limit, no virtually limit either. It is literally the way we're pricing out is software as a service, a SaaS, in platform as a service kind of thing. Is we're pricing it out that there are multiple levels. So starting at the lower level, you get X amount of users and for X amount of productions, and then you move up if you need more users. If you need more users, you move up again, and then we have our limitless is all you can eat, and whatever. So those are a little bit different. I feel like we had to do something to kind of differentiate the different levels, because there's going to be more resources given. There's going to be more resources taken from us, or we're going to be demanded for more resources, support, etc. At the count of the operators there are. But we really built this so that it's not a lot of hands-on for us. We're trying to automate as much as possible and give the tools to the user. So if you could set up multiple users in your Google account, I could train you how to do this in 10, 15 minutes. And then you could automate as many of those people as you want to at that point. Sending out the invites. It's very similar. It is single sign-on. So once you're signed on, you're already into all the different pieces behind it. But you also have multi-factor authentication also. So you can use an app on your phone. You can use one of the little USB keys, or use it's associated. We can associate with your Google account. Any of the common methods of securing and onboarding, that's what we're using.
Next question.
Next one's from Chirag Shita in Dallas, Texas. Are you able to show us how to set up a new panel?
I can indeed, and I would love to do that. So let me go over to, let's say replay. Boom, there it is. So replay, I haven't set up this panel. So this panel is blank at the time. We go to edit, add a module. I'm going to call this module name Chirag. Is it a Q or G?
G.
I'll go with a Q. And then at that point, this is where you do have to have a little bit of tech knowledge. Is like you would need to know what your URL is. Now, it is using secure. Everything has to be HTTPS. And so because of that, we block if you just put in an address like here, and just say I want to open up a Google or this right here. It's not going to allow me to save that and use it because it is not an actual secure website, because we're using the iframes to embed a lot of these things. So one of them that we have is, for instance, I use one of these, my drop down here. This is a switcher panel. I do have different permissions. We just recently added this, like today. We're always improving it. Coming up, Brandon Kalinowski is one of my full-time employees, has been with me for a couple of years now, and he's just a genius at getting through all this, and just a really smart cat. And so today I came up with a couple of things we were talking about on audio and permissions and stuff. Whip this out today. yeah. I was like, yeah, it'd be cool to show. And he goes, okay. It goes back to me a little later. So this is it. And so once I have the module, and you notice it resolved everything, then I could stretch it out, call it whatever I want, and then I save it to the cloud, and there it is. And that's it. That's as simple as it is. That module is now fixed. It's going to stay right there. If I wanted to put in another, say that's a simple monitor, let's call this a multi-viewer one. Yeah. And I know I have this guy right about here probably is going to be operational, I believe. Same thing. Open it, save it to the cloud. Yeah, it doesn't look like that one is, but if I needed to go back and say that one didn't work, I could edit the module. And now at this point,
Jeff, I think we're just seeing you, not the interface at this point.
Oh, sorry about that. That was easy enough. And then once I edit the module, then I could go in and say, okay, well, I want to use a different input. So maybe this guy here, and then save that to the cloud or save it locally. So the difference between saving locally is I could save locally and move things around still. And then if I needed to, I could go back and hit reset, and it goes back to whatever I saved in the cloud. So that's kind of that differences between whenever we are working and maybe I just want to make it a little movement, and then, or if I want to start like I did before, is I want to start fresh the next day, but I want everything back to where I had it. So I could just put everything back to the way I saved to the cloud at that point. So that's the idea between those two.
One of the things I'm interested in is, how do people get more information? Do they go to nimbuscontrol.com, or is there another place?
That's the best way.
That's the best way. So
if you know me here on Discord, you could always reach me on Discord. I kind of live on it. But yeah, nimbuscontrol.com, and there's a sign up option there, and we could sit down and do a full demo with you and kind of talk through some of the pricing that we're released with, and then kind of just take it from there. And we have full demos that we could set up and give you a limited trial for time on that. Use it for a real show. It's fine. I mean, this is ready to go. We've deployed it in January officially, but we've added a lot to it since January even, and we're in full range. I mean, we're just going. We've had a lot of great success with it, and we use it. Here's the key: we use it ourselves. I built it first for me. And so that's why, after my experience of using so many different tools out there, and I could not ever find anything. I looked and I probably delayed this about 3 years because I couldn't find anything. I finally was just like, all right, we're just going to build it ourselves. And that's when Brandon was like, I was interviewing companies, and we were talking about this with the different software development companies and stuff. I was going to contract to do it. And finally, Brandon was like, I could do that. And then we just took off. And it was just like, he'd been working, he's a great engineer for projects and stuff. And so he'd been working for me as an engineer, and I didn't know he had all these chops, man. He's got some serious programming chops. So that's where we ended up.
In the beginning of this whole thing, I was talking to Jeff before the show, and I said, give me the top couple of problems you're trying to solve. And he was able to really clarify it for me. He just said, we're just trying to make this simple and make it secure. And if we leave you with any messages from watching today, I think that's it. Jeff, is there anything else you want to wrap up with?
We've probably hit on all the big stuff. I really wish we would have had a few more questions and stuff, because that just gets me thinking about, okay, well, I didn't think about that, and we should add that in, And other things, I'm really happy about where we ended up. Most of our users are probably going to be starting from the mid sides. Are probably going to have some experience already with it, and actually we've used it for extra hours a couple months ago. We used it a little bit for extra hours, and I love people pushing on it and really trying to make it break, because that's the only way we can make things improve. But it's been very good for us, and personally, I'm just really happy about where it's at. But anybody that wants to try it out, see it, nimbuscontrol.com, and just sign up on the sign up sheet there, and we'll get back with you and do some hand holding and show you what all about.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jeff. We've been talking to Jeff Keithley about Nimbus Control and a whole bunch of other stuff having to do with production in the cloud. Cindy, thank you for reading for the show today and some of those questions. We probably didn't get to all of them. I don't have much of a view into the back end, so I couldn't tell how many we might have missed. But maybe, Jeff, we can get you to come back again as we go forward and do another session like this and learn some more.
Anytime.
Yeah.
Anytime.
One of the reasons we're doing this particular show is that we're all learning about a different kind of back-end process and the rest of that. Huge thanks go out to everybody who touches this. It's an amazing community behind the scenes. And if you don't know about office hours, if for somehow you've gotten into this show just by the virtue of the fact that somebody told you or something like that, we're kind of an offshoot of officehours.global, and you can get more information here. But I think that's pretty much it for today. I'm going to ask everybody to roll the credits, and thank you all for spending part of your Tuesday evening in North America with us. We'll see you next time.